I'm having so much fun. These are being.
I'm
these are being
blinking 3
recorded.
times, bitches. Help your boy.
All right, dude. Well,
Uh,
you ready to go?
all right, let's try it.
You got that voice nice and ready to go.
We're going to try.
Now I feel like I need to like. I'm like, all right. Do I need to tone it down a little bit?
Don't. I've always been impressed. Like literally, just there's just some people who project their voices better. You know, when some people when they sing, like they use different parts of their voice. When I talk, I use sounds like one part of my voice. You've got a whole spectrum that you're able to use. So.
Wow. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So
I
don't
think
go,
it's a cool compliment.
Yeah. Don't go into your shell. Don't be like, well, Tyler.
So Tyler, what do you think about? All right, well, let's jump into it. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the What You Don't Hear podcast. This is a 15-minute Friday where myself and a returning guest sit down to talk about a specific subject in hopes to send you into your weekend with some actionable, thought-provoking advice. Or maybe you can carry it into your next week or whatever it is and maybe change something up in your life for the better. And sitting down with me for this episode is my friend Tyler Phillips back on the show. Tyler, welcome.
Hey, how are you doing, brother?
Dude, thank you so much for being down to do this.
I am generally 90% down for all your ideas.
I
haven't had that 10% yet, but I have to like let you know that I always like take everything with a grain of salt because I'm like, you get too comfortable. Something weird's gonna happen.
That's you know what? Then you'd be like, he's gonna toss me in a music video, and I'm gonna be covered in like fake blood, and there's gonna be like monsters around me or something.
And that's where I'll probably be a scared little person, so we don't want to do that.
I'm gonna make sure the next music video idea I have needs to involve the movie Hereditary, and I'm gonna make sure I get you in it.
Nope.
Because I know that you're a big
Nope.
fan of horror movies.
I
So
am, but nope.
what we are not talking about today are horror movies. Or Tyler's fear of them. We are going to talk about something I think you honestly have an incredible quality in, and that is networking or building a community. Either way, I think involvement in a community, involvement in a group of people, and again, in a simple way to put that, networking. I think you are one of the. I just think that's an incredible strength of yours. Yeah. You are like somebody that I'm like, oh yeah. Tyler knows about this for sure.
I think it's funny because I talk about like the strength of your own personal network a lot, and I don't think I've ever been put on the spot to talk about how to build it. And I think you'll find that my approach to building your network is probably a little unorthodox. So
okay.
I'm excited to dive in and see like what questions you have, and because I honestly wonder, like, I mean, off the rip, like, what to you is networking? I'm curious.
So, I think, like, to me, when I think of networking, I feel like I picture it in like the cliche way.
Okay.
I feel like and I say this because I feel like it is a weakness that I have. Right now, somebody could be listening to that and be like, "Dude, you do all these things. You communicate with people all the time. You work with all these different people in all these different ways." For me, I feel like I look at networking as like, go out in your local community, get to these networking, events when the world is set up for events, and, go out and just meet and meet and meet and meet. Now, I love having meetings. Mm-hmm. If I could have a meeting every single day where I'm sitting and getting to know somebody, I want to do that. But I don't always have honestly, just the mental energy to get myself to do that. Yeah. So to try and explain it in a simple way, networking to me is going out, getting to know people, but I feel like it is almost a little bit of an extroverted quality that I don't know that I necessarily have as I sit here on a podcast and, all that sort of stuff.
Well,
like,
it's funny because right when you mentioned about how you're not sure if you have the energy to bring to that space, I think that's the reason why traditional networking sometimes doesn't fit for individuals. Like, you may have people that can easily put together the pieces or easily navigate that room, but the pressure of we are at a networking event, there's a thought of, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Should I wait to talk to this person? Whatever. I think traditional events like that kind of set up folks like even myself for failure because you're going to have the added pressure of that. For me, networking honestly happens most during my work, during events, being on set, in meetings. It doesn't have to be so structured, and I like that approach better because number one, those people do get to see you in your element, so it's not like an interviewer like, hey, I'm Tyler and you're Joe. You know what, we should talk.
Yeah.
It's a little forced, and a lot of those events happen like that. But having those moments where, say, you're on set and in between cuts the director and you were chatting it up, and you get to see a perspective about something random. Like you could literally be talking about your favorite movie all of a sudden. There's small things like that. I remember when was it 2 years ago when we were working with Bon Iver, like in between in between shots, Justin and I would randomly talk about Wes Anderson, like really randomly.
Yeah.
And that in itself will bring a commonality to the conversation, which allows then him to want to listen when you do want to talk some actual like business or idea, or like he's already like, you get me.
Yeah, you find that common ground.
Yeah, and it's that in itself is hard to do when you're going to a strict like networking event, because I don't think you feel like there's space for that type of talk.
No,
you don't allow yourself that space.
Yes, 100%, and that's why I feel like I say that I'm like bad at networking, right? Or anybody listening that may is like me feels like we're bad at networking, is because sure, we can build a network, we can send a message, we can talk, but for me, it really does need to be that, like, I know that we have a common ground, and I know that it's not just me being interested in, like, oh, I want to get to know this person.
Yeah.
But it is, like, we genuinely have something to talk about. Like, any networking events that I've went to, and they've ended up working in my favor, so I can't really complain that much, but this is something that's worked for me, is I'm not walking around the room trying to hand out a business card, trying to shake hands with everybody, when that's okay to do.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to meet all 50 people in the room, which sometimes I actually beat myself up for. And I'm like, you should have met more people, because if you try, you cast the reel out there way more times, there's better luck at catching something, right?
Especially when in those events too, like people are going to know who's there for the most part. And if you're like trying to meet that one person, odds are someone else is also trying to meet that one person.
Yes.
And your time can feel like truncated, I guess is the best way to put it. It can feel like you have to make sure you get your pitch in before the next person comes along and shake their hand. I like the approach of honestly just introducing yourself to the room. And what I mean by that, like in a traditional sense, it's you are going to make your presence known in some way, shape, or form. Whether it is when there's the initial like, hey, we're all here, this is what we're here for, and you are enthusiastic about it, or if it's just the small talk that like brings in multiple people. There is an art to that as well. Like, don't zero in. If you can show that you can like hold a conversation with like a group, that also holds it open. So like that's how I like to approach it. And then going back to like the non-traditional networking, I've realized the biggest thing is honestly like bring respect to the room and leave your fanboy outside, because a lot of that, a lot of those spaces are going to be filled with individuals of notoriety or someone that's like an authority in your field, and you could bring a little bit of like, oh my God, so-and-so is here. Like they did this project and I thought it was super dope. Honestly, you're allowed to have those feelings. First of all, they're valid, right? But in that moment, you just need to just be yourself, and because that person is going to pick up on the fanboy so much. There's a difference between respect, and being a fanboy. The respect is like, dude, I love what you do. Instead of, oh my God, I've just been like following you for years, and like that is just, it's just not.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're also humans that have their insecurities and they have their ups and downs. They just want to be seen as a human. They'd rather you not put them on the pedestal that they think. Now, ego exists, so there are going to be places where these people have that. And you know what? At the end of the day, maybe that person isn't the person you need to network with.
Well, and something you said in there is really what I relate to, and kind of what I was hinting at when I explained, like, oh, well, here's kind of what's worked for me in the past. Is like, I'm not that person who's going to run around the room, but I am that person who, like, when, like you said, if you can talk to that like small group, right? If you find like, okay, here's kind of this its own little web, its own little group in the whole like.
Can I answer this?
The
Hey, I totally did not. I must have bumped my. But I answered it on accident. Like
That's
literally,
so
like
funny.
I was just sitting there. I was like, did I hear something? Like, I am so sorry.
Incredible.
We were in the groove.
we absolutely were. We're gonna catch it again.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
I'm so sorry.
We are set. That was super funny though. I was like, I hear another voice.
I was
Like,
confused because I was like, how did I didn't answer my phone.
man,
like,
this networking thing really worked. We're
Right?
just getting all these calls. Oh my God, like, people are already hitting us up.
Damn.
So I'm gonna get us back on the clock here.
Okay.
Get the 15 minutes running again.
Okay.
I'm gonna hop back in. to kind of what I was explaining and asking you.
Okay.
This is leading to a question. So, what I was explaining was that I tend to, when I'm at a networking event, when I'm at any sort of event at all, right? I'm not the person who's going to run around the room and talk to the 25, the 50 people, whatever it is, right? And again, in a world where that exists and that can happen, I tend to let the people who truly want to talk to me there gravitate towards me, which I would assume, like, would you say that that is, I guess I'm going to explain the rest of the situation, then I have a couple questions, actually.
Okay.
So what I tend to do is I will, if there's somebody I do want to talk to or do want to meet, of course, I'm going to go introduce myself, whatever. But I'm going to look for that common ground first. So I know it's not just, hello, I wanted to meet you. I do this thing. This is me. Hey, let's get coffee because 100 people haven't asked you that, before me. And like you said, the same like cold pitch of like, well, 50 other people have told them the exact same thing. Yeah. I usually don't approach somebody unless I know we have a commonality or I know I have an actual purpose in talking to them. Even if I know, man, us knowing each other would be beneficial for one of us, for both of us, whatever it is, or hey, I really want to work with that person, I'm not always going to approach unless I know I have a true purpose in conversation. So a lot of the times what happens to me in networking events is I'll talk to the people that I know I can just have a casual conversation with, even if it's people that I talk to most often that are just also happen to be there. But what ends up happening is almost this like little like kind of like a hangout within the networking event where it's like that person is most comfortable talking to me. And then a person who knows that person also comes over because it's like, well, hey, you're talking to this guy. Hello. Oh, hey, my name's blah, blah. I'm friends with the person you're talking to. And then all of a sudden I end up finding myself in this, my own little separate networking event within the larger event.
And that's honestly like the best way to approach it.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think that is like, is that a smart way? Or is it like, dude, you need to start talking to more people or anybody's listening to this, like, yo, you need to talk to everybody you can.
You've heard me talk before about like fostering community, and right there you like made your own micro community of like-minded people. I also like within that, I'm kind of an antagonist where I like to bring in people who may not have found that groove, because there's always somebody that you can tell is just not connecting as quickly. I like to build those communities and then purposely bring that person in. That's kind of my thing. Is I'm gonna obviously build around my like-minded people, and then I'm gonna also intentionally search out the people who are not networking as strong. I've found for some reason those people are just, they also bring something to the table, obviously, but sometimes they're either in their own head or they are nervous, and that's the person that has like the plug or the key. And that's a lot of my favorite people I've met that way. Just like you obviously want to be here, but you may be overwhelmed in that moment. And I think you'll hear me talk about this later, but you said as well, moving with purpose or intention, being able to bring the humans around you that have the commonality will make it welcoming for when you pull in that person that's not. So, and I like seeing that because I think it also helps you show how well you can like move within teams, how well you put together teams. Like those are small strengths that you're showing off in that moment.
So I want your thoughts on, man, time is just like creeping up so quickly. I want your thoughts on, we're talking about like networking events, right? We're talking about meeting people in person. Let's talk about the internet a little bit. Let's talk about when you get that uncomfortable, like, oh man, like I want to send this email or this message. How can I express the, my true value or my true purpose in, a couple paragraphs or a paragraph or sentences or whatever to this person? So what's your advice on reaching out to somebody via the internet to try and actually connect with them and try to maybe even get yourself to a meeting, whether it's, a phone call, whatever it is?
So it's funny, when I move around the internet, I found this easier to actually like move through social media than it is email. I feel like right now you check your email for work and you know exactly what you're going to look for, and anything else outside of that, you're kind of shutting it down, or you've got blockers or whatever. I tell people right now, like most of us are at least showing ourselves via social media, whether it be LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram. Starting there, and honestly just a simple DM, and it can be as simple as like, hey, dope, like this was something you did was dope. You don't even have to be like, oh my god, I'm Tyler Phillips. I've been working in this space for 5 years. I see you've done it. You're actually a leader in the community. Don't do all that. Honestly, I tell people comment on the life stuff, like show an interest in them as a person. Don't have to just be like, yeah, I just premiered this new music video that I did for Kanye West. Everyone's going to be commenting dope shit, dude. Like that's what's going to happen. Comment when he's like, hey, I ran my first 5K, or hey, my kids just played in their first volleyball game. Like support them in their life stuff, so they mean like you actually care about them as a person, and you may be someone worth talking to when it comes to that stuff.
Yes,
So
I feel like that's super important.
Yeah, that's where I think these is easier to approach, because it's that like the super businessy way is very easy to be overlooked, because to be honest, at the end of the day, your pitch in itself is gonna have a lot of language that you've heard before. That's just how it is. Save that for when you're in person, when you've got down to the let's see like who you are. But if you're gonna network there, get to know them as people.
Okay, so last couple minutes here
Okay.
before our 15 minutes is up.
Okay.
Here's what I want you to do.
Mhm.
Somebody's listening to this. They are a more introverted person,
Mhm.
right? But they really want to get themselves out there more. So maybe it is via social media that they're trying to reach out to people. What are the best, whether it's handfuls, whether it's one big one, whatever it is, what is your best group of advice that you would
Yeah.
give to somebody who feels a little like enclosed, feels a little
Mhm.
introverted? They don't really know how to reach out to somebody,
Yeah.
but they just want to try and they want to try and network and connect with people in a better way.
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
So it's funny. I'm gonna say two things that in and of themselves are gonna sound like contradictory, but I want you to bear with me, okay? So number one, step outside of yourself. Okay? A lot of the times if you're in your own head or you're stuck on like what you see your value, you may be blocking yourself from like anyone like seeing you for who you actually are. So I say step out of yourself and actually like give yourself some grace. Like you've either been invited or you intentionally went to this place and you want to be around like-minded people. You deserve to be in that space. You deserve to be in whatever space you're working in. Embrace that. And then the other thing, this is why I said it sounds contradictory, be yourself. Like literally like the worst thing you can do is act like you're someone else or put on a facade. Like again, the whole moving with respect, like I see you, see me. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Bring that to the table. Like at the same time, you've got people that have done X, Y, and Z, but at one time, like they were also you. Remember that. Move forward, respect what they've done, what they brought, but just be real and be yourself. Those are the two things.
Perfect. Man, we got this so concise. Look at that. 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Just
Even
hit.
with all the shenanigans, bro, we
Dude,
made it happen.
There it is. That was a quality episode. So, Tyler, my friend, if anybody wants to maybe practice their networking tips that they've just got, maybe they want to talk to you, maybe they want to reach out and just communicate with you and connect with you, where can they find you around the internet if you want them to find you?
I mean, I'm on the internet. It's funny. My friends tease me. I don't answer a lot of DMs just because I don't think I'm like intentional about like being on the internet. But I've told myself in the next 6 months to a year to be very intentional about it. So you can find me on Instagram at TyPhillips7, Twitter Chai Tea Addict, and Facebook. You just look up my name. But yeah, and LinkedIn also by my name. So.
Which is so funny. The Twitter thing still, even when I learned that in your full episode, it still threw me off because I always read it as Cheetah Addict or something.
So weird,
You're
yeah.
always just going to be no, it's Chai Tea Addict.
Yeah.
Tyler, thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man.